It always helps when you're unmuted, right? So good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday and welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Shayla Solomon, Connection Coordinator of Sigma Theta Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan community service organization. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today for our forum entitled, So You Want to Run for Office. I would especially like to thank our panelists today. These ladies are absolutely phenomenal, and they are representing the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club. And you're going to learn a little bit more about them before they begin their presentation, where I'll have the opportunity to introduce them to you. Now, as part of its national agenda, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated strives to promote public awareness in various areas of concern to include legislative, public policy, and social justice issues. These issues specifically that are critical to various segments of our community. We remain focused on governance, voter education, and efforts geared to improve awareness regarding women running for office. Thus, our forum today. Now, specifically, our initiatives are focused on the theme of Women Lead, and that represents learn, empower, advocate, and decide. We are actively dedicated our efforts to providing platforms for meaningful dialogue on key areas of concern. Now, we want to encourage women and girls to get their seat at the table. We know that they can become change agents, and they have contributed so much to making a difference to our community. Now, today, I am very excited about the forum. I want to encourage you to text someone and let them know that the live has started, the Zoom has started. We want to make sure that everyone can receive the great information that we have in store for you today. Now, without any further ado, it is indeed my pleasure to introduce the president of Sigma Theta Omega Chapter, Mrs. Julisse Holder.
A beautiful greeting and welcome to our viewing audience, to our esteemed panelists, and to our moderator and host. My name is Julisse Holder, and I am the president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Theta Omega Chapter, on the islands of St. Thomas and St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands. And on behalf of my 70+ members, I would like to thank you for joining us today. Today, we're being joined by the ladies of the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club, Ms. Abel Baker and Ms. Melody Rains. And they are going to take us to school on how you can run for office. Yes, you too can run for office. Today, we're going to be a tad bit sexist because we really want to highlight and focus on women. How can women run for political office? What's the process for filing? What are some tips and best practices? What offices can you run for in the Virgin Islands? It's a lot of behind the scenes information and maneuvering through the process, and we are excited for Ms. Baker and Ms. Rames to have that conversation with us today. New Horizons Women Democratic Club said it perfectly because it's really about educating, empowering, and inspiring women to seek a seat at the decision-making table. I want to remind you viewers that Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated is a nonpartisan organization. We are not here to tell you who to vote for, but rather to bring you critical information so that you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. We have a jam-packed presentation for you today. So without further ado, I now throw it back to Ms. Shayla S. Solomon. Welcome once again.
Thank you so much. Now, I am so ready to just introduce these ladies to you. I'm going to dive into their bios. Now, this is just a portion of how phenomenal they are. If I were to really get into their biographies and their backgrounds and areas of expertise, that would take the whole forum. So I'm going to just share some highlights, and I will start with the president of the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club. Ms. Isabel Baker is currently the owner and operator of IBCVI & Co., a web-based financial and business management company. She's also the founder of Integrity Women in Business Center, a nonprofit organization that supports women in business by offering seminars, workshops, and technical assistance. She serves her community in many different arenas. I mean, I don't know where she finds the time, but she always gives back and contributes. As I mentioned, she is the current president of the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club and sits on the territorial committee of the Democratic Party. She holds membership in the St. Croix Chamber of Commerce and the National Federation of Democratic Women. She's an executive board member of the National Association of Nonprofit Organization Executives and the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative. Well known for her energetic and passionate advocacy for women around the world. She has been named the 2015 SBA Emerging Leader and a Woman Empowerment Expert by her peers. She recently promoted the launch of a disaster recovery project corporation in the tri-state area and is continuously driven to lend her skills and abilities to promoting an equitable global economy. Her mantra of life is live authentically to the fullest. Now, without any further ado, our vice president of the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club is Miss Melody Raines, a name that we are all familiar with. Melody has spent more than 11 years in the Virgin Islands legislature as public relations director to several senators. She was a campaign manager. She helped with several elections and re-elections of governors, no stranger to the election process, campaigns, or politics. While living in Houston, Texas, she had the opportunity to volunteer with the NAACP, who was conducting GOTV during the re-election campaign of Houston Mayor Lee Brown. At the time, she was able to observe the workings of a major stateside campaign. And she saw that the Virgin Islands electioning could compare to any stateside campaign. Upon her return to the Virgin Islands, Raines went right back to working for the Democratic senators and getting involved in elections. In 2008, the delegate to Congress, then Donna M. Christensen, selected Raines to attend the Congressional Black Caucus Political Education Leadership Institute, also known as Boot Camp, and this was held at Morgan State University. Melody is the vice president, a community advocate. Both ladies have just contributed so much and made a significant impact. Ladies, we thank you for being here. We thank you for the continued efforts of the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club. I encourage everyone to visit their social media page. Make sure that you follow, like, and stay updated on all things coming out of that organization, and also the Sigma Theta Omega Chapter, because we have so much in store for you. Without any further ado, it is time, as Madam President said, for us to be taken to school. And Abel, I am going to turn the virtual floor over to you to begin your presentation. Thank you so much.
Please. And let me unmute myself, right? Thank you so much, ladies, for that warm welcome. It is really a pleasure to be here to share with you, to engage with the dynamic women of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sigma Theta sorority, right? Incorporated. I think I mumbled that, but you, you got it. But again, I'm gonna jump right into the presentation. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. And please let me know that you are seeing the presentation.
Indeed, we are.
Indeed. Okay, so let me do that welcome again. Let me do that warm welcome again. Welcome, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Theta Omega Chapter. Again, it's a real pleasure to be here. And we let's see if I can get this moving. We are going to present and have a discussion and share with you some of the tips that we've learned through our own experiences, through our experiences at boot camp, and we'll talk about if you're ready to run. So what this segment is about, you're here because you may be thinking about running for office. And that is an awesome step. And I'm so happy that you are engaging in this type of thought process, because there's so much in the community that can be done. And already in your respective places as alpha women, you are doing great things. And just by bringing this information to the members and to the general public via this live is really awesome. So you're exploring your curiosity around future or current run for office. There are going to be some important questions to help guide you on that journey. Do feel free to share any of those questions in the chat. And Sheila, if you let me know what those are, then we can answer those. Wanting this to be as engaging as possible. We're going to talk about some tips and things that you should be aware of. And we hope that this segment will show you that you're already qualified and will build your confidence towards your future run for office in whatever capacity that may be. So we're going to start with the why. In general, why is this something to consider? Why do you want to run? And you want to think about, your values. What is it that you value? Ask your current elected officials, ask yourself, do they currently represent those values and the things that you can bring to the table? What are some of the problems in our communities that we may want to solve? And be realistic. Now, we may have the tendency sometimes to talk about the problems and the problems and the problems that we deal with every day, whether it's WAPA, bumpy roads, education for our children, women's health, so on and so forth. But what are the things that resonate with you as a person, with your community, and beyond the problem, what are some of the solutions you may be able to bring? Your why needs to be extremely specific. You need to know, again, what the issues are, what you want to solve, and why you may be the best person to solve them. So those are some of the things you want to consider when considering if this space, if this higher office space may be the right place for you. The what? Something else to consider. What are you passionate about? What makes your blood boil? The passion and the energy around public office is extremely important. The positive energy around these spaces is extremely important. And so what is it, not necessarily that boils your blood in a way that makes you angry, but boils your blood in a way that brings that energy towards whatever it is that you are passionate about? What office addresses the problems you want to solve? Because, many times I hear persons say, I want to run for the Senate. I want to run for governor. I want to run for the delegate to Congress's position. But I want to run for the Board of Elections, Board of Education. I want to be a community advocate in my housing community. There are so many different areas and spaces in our community where we can put our wonderful positive energies, but you want to make sure that that actually fits your passion, and where the issues lie that you may want to solve. And understanding the different political structures, or the political structures of the territory of the Virgin Islands in which, we serve. You want to understand what offices do what. The Senate has a very specific agenda, so to speak, or things that they address as it relates to budgets, as it relates to creating laws, and as it relates to holding the executive branch accountable. They call it the first branch of government. And just note to self, a little fun fact, that they call this the first branch of government, not because they are more special than any other branch of our government, but because they were the first branch of government to be congressionally assigned. And so there they have a specific area, such as the executive branch has a specific area. The executive branch executes the laws that are made by the first branch of government and executes the budgets that are created by the first branch of government. And so if that's your area of passion or expertise or interest, that may be the space for you. And then, of course, we have our judicial branch. You can learn more about what each office accomplishes by looking at the current elected officials' official website, the Board of Elections, so on and so forth. And understanding what those jobs entail. It's really a very, very important part of the process, the thought process, as you think about, what area may suit me best. And then, of course, their boards, and a lot of times I feel as though there's great opportunity in our community organization to serve on certain boards, and those should be definitely looked at and explored as well. What does the salary entail? Now, for us as women, there's much conversation about how many women are in different positions. You see, still in the United States of America, I want to say, and still in the territory, lots of male-dominated positions, and those are a lot of times the higher paid positions. And even when they're the same position, women are still not making the same rates of pay in certain positions as the men are. And so salaries are something that we definitely want to consider. Does this suit my lifestyle? Can I support my family based on this? And there are even some positions that higher office positions. I work on many boards. You talked about the territorial committee and so on and so forth, and those are unpaid positions. So don't sell yourself short. A lot of times we don't want to necessarily have those conversations. I know we're not doing this just for the pay, but the pay is important, ladies, and something to consider. Which public office should you run for? I want to share this. There's an assessment quiz that can be taken, and you can do this in your spare time. I'm going to have Shayla post the link in the chat. Let me see if I can open this up really quick. It comes from an organization that we are plugged into called Should She Run? And so, ladies, this is a great site, shouldSheRun.org. If you, and Sheila, again, just please post that in the chat, and you can go in there, ladies, and take an assessment quiz. So beyond this conversation today, that's going to really, really help you to fine tune, if this is your interest, maybe what the right position or what may be the best office for you based on some of the questions that they asked. So just wanted to share that with you. So moving right along to the when. So we know the who, we know the why, we know the what's, but when is the right time? We got a lot going on. We're raising families. We are building careers. We're enhancing ourselves professionally through education. And so depending on what's going on, it may not, or it may suit the when to run. So when you want to run for office, this could be based off of a few things. When is the position available? You might be ready right now, but that position doesn't open up for another 4 years, but that's great because it gives you some time to prep. Do you feel you're in a good position personally? Never leave yourself out of the equation. You know, we talk about the self-care and the self-awareness and all of those things, and it's really, really important, especially when we start to get into these extremely busy spaces that are going to pull us in a lot of different directions. And so, do you feel that you are in a good space, position, personally, in your family life, your work life, etc., to run? Because you're going to need to lay a little bit of infrastructure there, so on and so forth. And so back to the who. This is based on a few different who's to check, to include who you would say you are. Check out your online and your print media presence, because if you know currently online and your print media presence is, you know, you may be in a modeling career, or you may be in a, you know, just in a totally different atmosphere. You're a bathing suit model right now, not knocking that. You know, I do that in my part-time as I live in the Virgin Islands and I'm always on the beach. But you kind of have to be cognizant, though, right, of that social media presence. And if that's currently what you're doing, but you're thinking about going into another avenue, it's okay to start to switch up the things that you're starting to promote, because we'll realize that, you know, if you're running for public office, meaning you're going to be a public figure, your public, you know, features are going to be very important in how you move forward. Something else, another who to consider, who is currently in that seat? Are they running for re-election, or are they vacating the seat? Because that may be a great opportunity to say, hey, this is now my time to jump in. So it's who am I, who is currently there. But I think for me, what I'd like to say, one of the greatest or the most important aspects of this is who will I be representing, right? Because we're not here to, this is not about Bella. This is not about Mel or Shayla or Jaleese or anyone else personally. I mean, it is, because it starts with us. However, the mission is about the community that we're representing. So, and understanding what is important to that community. Because if, you know, again, whatever may be important to me, whatever drives me, also really needs to be in alignment with what's important to the people that I want to represent. So the who's. Moving right along. Sheila, I see a, okay, thank you for posting that in the chat. Perfect. Okay, slide. So who is running? A tip. Sometimes like-minded people may run against each other for the same seat. That happens all the time, doesn't it? If you see similar people running for the same seat, you may want to check if there's another position available in the same race, so that you're not necessarily competing for that same space, especially if you have the same like-mindedness or same goals going forward. It's very interesting the fact that we, the Women of the New Horizons, Women's Democratic Club, we face that all the time. So a lot of times what we do is, you know, we talk about it and we make that decision as a group. Instead of myself and Melody, you know, we know we're in alignment, we have the same passions, and instead of us kind of like beating each other up for the same seat, we may consider, okay, you know what, Mel, I'm going to take this position over here, or this run for this seat over here, and you do this. Just because a lot of times we find that a collaborative or coordinated mission, especially when we're in a space, it's a small territory, and that is not to discourage anyone from their passion, but it just allows for more of us and for us to extend ourselves, because at the end of the day, if we all run for the same seat, it leaves other open positions that we could have gotten ourselves involved with, right, still left available. There's so many boards and commissions. The New Horizons Women's Democratic Club recently engaged in a legislative action to gain access as women to boards and commissions. There's 122 boards and commissions in the territory of the Virgin Islands. And so I say all that to say there's lots of positions, so we don't all have to run for the same seat. Spread the love, all right? So exploring and preparing. It takes time. You will sacrifice time on other things like hobbies, birthday parties, or vacations, so that you can campaign. So that's, again, something to consider. If this is something you want to do, that, yeah, it's going to be a sacrifice. And of course, in all of this, one of the main things is getting prepared. Got to get prepared for whatever it is that's in life. Think about when you are going to consider buying a house, when you're going to consider getting married, when you're going to consider starting a family. All of these things take some planning and preparation. And so it's going to be the same thing here for this career choice, this public office choice. So getting prepared. What fears do you have about running for office? And how can you work on them now before you ever decide to run for office? Fundraising is a major consideration. And your comfort level as it relates to public speaking. Those are things that you want to start thinking about and preparing for and planning for. And with no further getting into that, getting prepared, especially for that public speaking aspect, that's a space that even for myself, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I always get a little nervous when I have to do it. And so things like different public speaking classes, so on and so forth. As it relates to the fundraising, you may want to check out those type of classes that you can take, or even sitting with mentors. Mentors are a great way to get prepared. I'm going to turn over the mic now to our Vice President, Ms. Melody Rames, who's going to talk a little bit more about communication and the public speaking, especially because that is going to be a major part of that public office experience. No further ado, Melody.
Yes, hi, good morning still. Again, my name is Melody Rames, and I am not feeling up to par today. It's like I've been traveling for 2 days, and I'll tell you, this morning I got up at 7 o'clock to go and get a COVID test. But I just have a cold, which is kicking my butt. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and move this along. Got some slides here, and we're going to be talking about communication. All of my career in government, in the 11 years that I've been in the Virgin Islands legislature, and the 7 years that I was the public information officer for the Virgin Islands Police Department, I've been dealing in communication. Communication can turn the tide, can turn public opinion around to you if you do it correctly. At the time when I was doing public information for the Virgin Islands Police Department, if we look at that, the trust of the community was a lot higher than it is right now in VIPD, because of the transparency that happened, and because of the balancing that happened also, that we're not just reporting on crime, but we're also reporting on the good work that the Virgin Islands Police Department was doing in regards to the cadets, in regards to other kind of community outreach that they're doing. So the key to election campaigns is definitely effective communication. Now, there's different ways that you can communicate. Communication is necessary on a lot of different fronts. It needs to be between the people want to say just the public and the candidate, but it also needs to be good communication between the leadership, between the campaign volunteers, between the donors, between the activists, between the supporters. We all have to be talking from the same page. Communication can help you build alliances between groups, such as your group, Shayla, here, and groups with similar interests and goals, as well as coordinate activities to build and maintain these relationships, because these relationships are going to go way beyond the election cycle. Okay, whether you win or you lose, you want to continue to have those relationships and continue to build and encourage those relationships that you have. So communication is required to mobilize supporters, to convince them to actively support the campaign. It's required to build relationships with editors. That is very important, with the media out there. Okay, it is very important to build those relationships with media. And there's a lot of times when sometimes the media may not be so favorable toward you, but they have a job to do as well. So you want to give them information. You want to be available to them. Once you start being not available to them, they have more ink than you can ever print, okay? So you want to make sure that you have good relationships with editors and journalists, because it does influence the news media and their agendas and how they frame issues, events, and processes. Communication is necessary to reach out to the voters. You want to do phone banks, you want to do outdoor activities, you want to be knocking on doors, you want to have that interpersonal discussion and relationship with voters. So communication is necessary to shape all of this, okay, in a favorable light so that you can favorably brand your campaign. Next slide, please. So of course, your campaign roles, you can look at this a little bit more closely. So you have the communications director and your press secretary, all of the things that has to do with it. And of course, in these days and age, you must have the digital director that directs the campaign and the candidate's digital presence, that's on websites and digital advertising, communication, social media presence, those kind of things. Next slide. So you always want to sell and promote your candidate. Your candidate, first of all, must be an outgoing type of person. And a lot of times they have to be a little bit cajoled to do that. You have to have people, you have to have a lead person, a handler to walk with your candidate and make sure that that handler knows who the people are, who are the movers and the shakers in the community, so that you can say, oh, that's the gatekeeper for Savannah. That's the gatekeeper. This is the person that everybody goes and looks for down in Contant Knolls. Okay, so it's very important that you know the gatekeepers and that your handler and your communications is effective to bring these people in, because you want to have these people on your side. So that's part of your effective communication. So you want to make sure that your candidate is well known. One of the, of course, again, this is not partisan, but I did work on Governor Bryan's campaign from 2017 actively. I was on that campaign from 2017. Now on St. Croix, we have a person named Adelbert Bryan, and the governor's name is Albert Bryan. We worked for over 2 years to make sure that people knew the difference between Adelbert Bryan and Albert Bryan. Okay, so that your name recognition is really, really important. Remember the times I'm talking from St. Croix perspective, but Chucky Hansen, she fought to have that name Chucky on there, you know, because people say Alicia Hansen, who is that? You must have that name recognition, and you must have also your slogan is something that you have to vet and really like go through a lot, because a lot of times people's slogans can be used against them. So you have to be creative and look at the ways that people can take your slogan and turn it into something negative against the candidate. So you always have to look at your slogan. So what is your candidate's background? What's their social and political views? And what is their most important aim of the campaign? And what will make your candidate stand out from the crowd? These are the things that you need to ask. These are the things that you need to answer. Then these are the things that you need to push. Next slide, please. Social media, very, very important in this day and age. But listen, social media does not negate a great ground game, a great GOTV, a great get out to vote, a great walking through the neighborhoods, canvassing, knocking on doors, doing small events where the candidate can get to know people on a one-on-one basis. People want to feel important, so they want to have that one-on-one with the candidates. Okay, so you want to do that. But however, in social media, we know that 7 out of 10 people, and the number may be higher in the United States, use social media. So your campaign needs to be where the people are. And this one says in the middle of the 21st century town square, because before you used to have the town criers, and we used to stand on street corners, and we used to say our platform, and we used to do all of these, going way back to Hubert Henry Harrison, our St. Croix native who stood on the streets, on the steps of Harlem with Marcus Garvey and talk to the Negroes of the day about improving their lifestyles, right? So we are now our social media is our 21st century town square. So you want to make sure that your voice is out there. You want to use your time wisely. You have Snapchat, you have Twitter, you have this, you have that. But listen, let me tell you, Facebook is still the #1 social media that most people use. You might say the young people may say, oh, Facebook is for old people. We use Snapchat and that kind of stuff like that. But if you're actually using these things, you'll know that I think it's like 76% of all social media users use those things. And then there are graphs. You can look up the graphs, and then they will show you that what I'm saying is really true. Analytics are your best friend. Facebook does really, really great analytics, and you can target your messages. You can put together your short vignettes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, or your candidate. You put together your short vignettes. You wanna target your audience. If you want to do the paid promotions, you can also get your commercials on Pandora. You can get your commercials on YouTube. You can get your commercials on, I see the commercials on, because I only have streaming TV. And every time I see like a commercial for Stop and Shop or Nigel's 123, I'm like, okay, I don't know how they do that. So your communication director and your digital director should know how to do that, so that they will be there and interrupt your thing, because nobody watches commercials anymore. So the question is, what's the best way to combat negative? Okay, let's see, what negative social media campaigning? Tell the truth. That's the way you do it. You tell the truth. And you see, the thing is that a lot of times when there is negative social media campaigning, it means that people are not understanding what your message is. You have not gotten your message out to people, and they have either misinterpreted or filled in the blanks. We do it all the time. When we don't have information, what do? In our relationships, we filled in the blanks. Partner ain't come home last night, is we filling in the blanks. All the way. It's the worst, and it's usually the worst thing. It's usually the worst thing when you fill in the blanks. So all he has to do is come home and say, babe, my car broke down. I was doing my mom's laundry, something, give me a call or something like that. It is all about communication, okay? So that is the best way to combat negative. Tell the truth and tell the whole truth and be transparent. That's the way we do it. So next slide, please. Okay, again, we talk about transparency, transparent objectives. What is it that you're standing for? If you're a single mom, you want to go after those kind of, you want to build yourself a niche, that's fine. But of course, as a senator, you still need to have an overall thing. But if you want to build yourself a niche, that's good, because are there people that you can see that are underrepresented? Then you could be that advocate. Okay, topics. Goes right into it. What is important for your constituents? And you must have adequate funding. We want to start from before. I always say, like, there's a joke, but I was totally serious when you have a person who's actually running right now, and they says, Melody, this person really needs a campaign manager. And I was like, I will run their campaign, but after the election. And I mean, I get so much, I says, I'm not kidding. I am totally serious, because you need to build a foundation, 2 years or whatever. You want to be able to, you want people to say, oh yeah, I remember her. She taught my kid in school. She had a youth program. She was always involved in this. She was always involved in that. She used to call up on the radio. She had opinions. She did letters to the editor and talked about, so before 2 years, you know where I stand on WAPA, you know where I stand on housing, you know what I want to do on different things, because I've spoken out about these things. I'm not just going to show up at election time and say, here I am again, vote for me, because it's not working. Okay, so that's my, I don't understand why people laugh at that. I'll be your campaign manager after the elections. So again, like I said, letters to the editor. In the year leading up to declaring your intentions to run for office, make your views known. Okay, let's go to the next slide. You want to repeat the message. You want people to come back and say, you want them to say, candidate Humphrey, he says the ducks in the pond needs to go. You know, that's his, that is the message. And you want people to repeat your message. Barack Obama, you know the drill on him. He was so good at that, and people were repeating his message. People were repeating those stories that he had about the little old lady in Chicago and all that kind of stuff like that. You have to have stories. Put your stories together. Put your stump speech together. We are at these events and things like that, and I swear that 75% of the candidates that get up there do not have a stump speech. They do not. They go on a wing. You need to know what it is that you're going to speak about so that you can hit all your points. Okay, so thank you. So you want to, okay, we talked about this: opinion leaders, gatekeepers, grassroots, general population, speaking directly to the people, and we talked about internal communications. Important that all your campaign workers and those pushing your agenda are on the same page, that they are sending out the same messages. It's important that you go ahead and you put together your bullet points, your talking points, and that kind of stuff like that, so that if your campaign worker or somebody asks about what somebody asked them about something, they can go right to that bullet point. And it's something easy for them to remember, and it's that that's what she stands for. Next slide, please. So again, your web page, this is part of the social media. You want it to be very user-friendly, provide quick and comprehensive access to information. It can be used for donating, campaign donations. You need to have a dedicated webmaster, but you also need to have more than one person, because if for some reason that person leaves, you can't get into your back office for your web page, you're up shit's creek. So you want to also designate someone to respond to questions and keep the candidate informed on all issues that arise. You want to say, you know, Mary wrote in the other day and she was asking about the sewer that was in front of her house. You know what I mean? You need to know everything that's going on. So go ahead to the next page. Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk about brochures. People are still doing brochures. You want to make sure, I think most of the people who read brochures are older people. So you want to make sure that it's very readable for them. You want to have bullet points. There's a tendency that you want to put all your information in there, but a lot of times that's not practical. So you want to have photos, you want to have that eye candy in there, some detailed information, some facts and figures. So the next slide, please. Again, stay strong on your message. Control the flow of the information. Dictate how information is delivered and processed. So when you're putting together stuff and you have your little vignettes, you have your little web Okay, you have your little web things and your little commercials and everything like that. You want to be able to pace them because you don't want to keep flying out information. Remember, it takes at least 7 times for a message to get into a person's head. And do not worry about you're sending out the same message all the time. How many times do you see on your TV Ford or McDonald's or Burger King? It's like we have 5 commercials in one day about the same thing, but that is how these messages stick in your head. It's proven, it's scientific. So you want to dictate how the information is delivered and how it's processed. You want to do the timing. You want to connect the message to the voters. You want to validate your message through third-party stories. That's, again, I'm going back to Barack Obama. You know exactly what I'm speaking about with that, because those are the kind of things that he changed the game with that. When he came up, when everybody knows that. And after that, everybody started doing it. He started by telling a brief story about your own experience. This is the kind of thing that should be probably in your stump speech. You establish yourself as someone as credibility, and you let people know that you have a personal stake in the outcome of this election, and you're not above the plight of the everyday citizen. So that's really important, okay? We just have some quotes here. I'm not going to go through that. It's 47. Let's see the next one. Is that it? That's the end of the slideshow. All right, well, I hope that really has just have some points there that really stick to you and something that says, wow, because the thing is that we know all of this stuff is that sometimes people put it in a different way and they say it with different words. They say it with a different emphasis and that kind of thing. The other thing, sorry, I wanted to really talk a little bit, and Annabelle talked a little bit about public speaking. It's really important that you, Shayla, your public speaking is like so, and you know, you and I've been going back from way back. But I see legislators who speak in a monotone. So you can't really hear what it is that they're saying. You need to be able to get listen to other people and mirror how they were doing. When I came onto the VIPD, and I knew that I would have to be doing like some really bad stuff and saying who people are dying and stuff like that. It's like, how did you do it? I listened to the ABC News. I listened to all of these famous newscasters, and I mirrored the way that they spoke and the emphasis that they put on certain words. And some words they ran together, and the other one that where they wanted to punch, they did it. They slowed down and they said those things. You know, there's a way to do it. You have to be deliberate and intentional about your communication strategies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melody. I know that we are going to transition back to Abel before we close out. So Abel, the virtual floor is yours. And once again, for everyone who is just tuning in, or in case you joined the live a little bit late, we welcome you and thank you for joining us for our So You Want to Run for Office public forum. This is part of the AKA's lead informational series. There's so much more in store for you. We will have a follow-up to today's forum. So again, we encourage you to stay tuned to all things on the Sigma Theta Omega Chapter Facebook page. You can get all of the updates and information, and also be sure to follow the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club. Lots of great information. So Abel, I will turn it right back over to you before we conclude today's forum.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, and thanks, Melody. That was some boot camp training in action. That was really a snippet of, you know, as you may be aware, and the listening audience as well, the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club does host boot camp training. It's intense. It's a lot of information, and we do this for women in the community prior to elections. So stay tuned for the next time that we promote, and hopefully some of you ladies would have decided that you're ready to run and will join us in that boot camp training. So again, thank you, Melody, for Communications 101 on the campaign trail. So I'm going to go back and share my screen, and let's see here. Give me 1 minute to transition as, oops, oh goodness. My document disappeared on me there. So just
No
give me 1
problem.
second to pull it
No
back
problem.
up. Thank you for your
No problem
patience.
at all. While you work on that, I would also like to say an extra special good morning and thank you to all members of Sigma Theta Omega Chapter who are joining us today. It's really great. You talked about the why and the passion and the purpose, and we have so many women who are just so actively involved in their communities. A question did just pop into the chat, and Abel, while you work on that, maybe Melody can answer. Is the boot camp on St. Thomas and St. Croix, or just where is it? I know it was virtual, this past one that you did, but will you by chance be doing a St. Thomas boot camp?
Well, that is something that we are considering as the club itself is trying to expand. You know, the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club started off pretty much on St. Croix, but we've always wanted to partner with some sisters on St. Thomas and expand over there. So that is definitely a possibility. However, now that we found Zoom and we are all like Zoom experts, that's a great way to be able to expand the opportunity to even women beyond the Virgin Islands. We may continue to have virtual sessions, but definitely some of our programming is coming to St. Thomas. And thank you again, Sheila, and the Sisters of AKA for being that bridge in bringing us over and sharing this with our St. Thomas sisters today. So I did get that screen up. Can you see it? I think I got it up.
Yes,
Can you see it?
we can.
Okay, awesome. So we did getting prepared. Let me just get over to the correct slide here. Thanks again, Melody. So in closing out and wrapping this up, there are some questions
But
again
I think, Abel, if you can just go to the actual view, we are seeing, yes, okay.
You're seeing all that stuff, right? There it is. Oops. Let me just, it went, excuse me as I scroll through here. Come on. Perfect. Here we are. Questions to consider before you decide to run for office and as you start preparing. So we've talked a little bit or much about this in the slides prior. So does your community know you? Have you been seen in your community as a leader? And that piggybacks off of what VP Rames stated about, getting some of that conversation out, messaging out who you are out via social media appropriately, right? And letters to the editors, so on and so forth. Do you know why you're the best person for the job? What sets you apart from your opponents, right? You're going to have done your research, understand your community, understand the issues, and understand yourself in that space. Do you know the time commitment and legal qualifications, residency, age requirements, not resume requirements to meet to run for this position? So those are kind of like the legal aspects of it. And I think in the very beginning, I spoke about reaching out to the Board of Elections. Election Systems of the Virgin Islands has a wonderful website, lots of information there, and a great start to even understanding what those requirements are. Sadly, I have literally seen people walk into the election board with great intention. The documentation was not right, and they didn't get on the ballot as they wanted to. So that's a really, really, really important part and process of being elected, is understanding those requirements. And finally, but very important, are your family, friends on board? If your family is not on board with you running for political office, you running for further office, it can thwart that effort. And so it's really important, get them on board, get your family on board, get your friends on board. If your family and your friends respect this decision, they'll help to promote this decision. They're going to hold you up on those times when you start to even question your own decision. So it's really important to have a good support mechanism. And I know we understand that. Maybe you're not ready to run. Consider serving your community in other ways, like serving on local boards and commissions. We talked about that. Volunteering, that's a great way to start. That's where I started. Volunteer for nonprofits, volunteer for civic organizations, volunteer for the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club, volunteer for a candidate campaigning in your district so you can also get a feel of what that may be like. The volunteer experience for me has really been my life's work, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it got me to where I am now in my political career, which is even further than I ever really thought that I would be. Are you ready to run? If you're ready to run, these are the things that you should consider. Getting involved in a local party. We're not saying which party, but a party. And it's also okay to run as an independent as well. Get involved with clubs in your community. Let the right people in your town know that you're running, because giving them the courtesy and the heads up, because a lot of times they may, they're going to help you out. Build relationships with the media. We talked about that. Make sure you're ready with that Rolodex. Yes, I still keep a Rolodex. That Rolodex is important, right? Those folks that you knew from back in the day, start getting, communicating with them, letting them know what's going on. Your email list and your fundraising list. Know the people in the community that can offer funding to your campaign. Most campaigns really do need to have some funding in order to do certain things with ads and radio and so on and so forth. Have some good photos of yourself. I need to work on that even myself. Every time someone calls and say, hey, let's do this presentation, I'm always fumbling for like a really good photo. So get some good photos of yourself. You'll need it for your campaign, your websites, and your literature. And be sure your social media is in sync. Take the bathing suit pictures off there now and put on the suit and start to promote those things. So at the end of the day, when you come out, when you're ready to announce whatever that announcement is going to be, people have already gotten to know you and feel you in that space. They say fake it till you make it, but you're not faking it. You're just, claiming it. Claim it until you make it, and do that in preparation for your race. Thank you, ladies, so much for your time. I hope that this has been edifying for you today. And please do feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Shayla.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I cannot thank you enough. From the very first time that we reached out in terms of the interest to conduct today's forum, your response was so favorable and so positive. And it was just really great to see how aligned that we were together in terms of the organizations and making sure that women were able to have a seat at the table. So Abel, I'm going to have you take down your PowerPoint. There we go. So we can see everybody on the screen. Fantastic. So just a reminder, this is just part one. We will have at some point in the fall, we are going to have a follow-up. This is part of an entire boot camp with lots of information. So we know that there's more details and info that are so crucial to making sure that you are really on the right track in terms of running for office. But I want to encourage everyone, I've said this before, I'm going to say this one more time. If you have not already visited or liked the Sigma Theta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Facebook's page, do so right now. And also, if you have not liked or followed the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club Facebook page as well, be sure to do that so you can be aware and informed of the upcoming events and forums that you can be a part of. I certainly want to thank on behalf of the Connection Committee, on behalf of the chapter, and I know our president will do the same as well. But ladies, thank you so much to you and your entire team. Today we had our panelists, our Vice President, Mrs. Melody Rames, and our President of the New Horizons. And I say our because I just feel like, I feel like we're connected, ladies, right? Ms. Abel Baker, President of the New Horizon Women Democratic Club. But I know also Ms. Sandra Satori, your Secretary, and we had Ms. McIntosh, your Treasurer. The entire team really, was so involved in making this possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will turn it right over to the President of Sigma Theta Omega Chapter, Mrs. Julisse Holder, for closing remarks, but certainly for everyone who tuned in. We appreciate you sharing a little piece of your Saturday morning with us for this great information. Madam President.
Thank you, Shayla. And I really just want to mimic Shayla's sentiments. I really want to thank everyone for participating, whether it's as a viewer or a panelist. The goal today was to drop some gems, and I think that Adele and Melody did just that. We learned the what, the who, the when, the why. We learned not only how to craft your message, but how to get that message out and communicate it with your constituents, whether on Facebook, whether on a website, through the various media platforms. And we were given the roadmap. We have the roadmap, and now it's your time to take the seat. We have been educated, we've been empowered, and I really encourage you to participate in the election process, whether it's by voting or running for office or becoming actively involved in collaborative governance and the decision-making process on issues that affect you and your family, or like Abel stated, just volunteering. That's the first step, just volunteering, just get involved. Ms. Baker, Ms. Rames, Shayla, thank you for taking the time out to share your bootcamp knowledge with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon. Thank you.
So that was literally we're going to be back to do this again, ladies. Okay, when we return in the fall after summer, we will be seeing you again. To everyone that tuned in today on the Zoom, and we're going to make sure that the Zoom presentation, the live, will be shared to our chapter page, so you'll be able to see it again if you missed anything. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies, do enjoy the rest of your day, and to everyone that joined, thank you so much. Stay updated on the New Horizons Women's Democratic Club and the Sigma Theta Omega Chapter. Have a wonderful day, everyone.